Hello, I am Jody Wolf. You're watching Expoz. This is March 31, 2015, 1:41 a.m. Birmingham. Topic, spring break. Let's talk about that a little bit. I went to my first spring break. My mother and daddy took me down. We started going about when I was probably 6, because we had an aunt and uncle that lived near Captain Anderson's, about a mile from there. So we were only about a 10-minute drive to the beach. And as we got a little older, by the time we were about 14 and 15, then we were staying at the beach. But the traffic back then, considering the population difference then and today, it's the same as it is today. The girls in numbers, again, considering the population, about the same then as it is today. And the events, you had live bands going on at the boardwalk all the time, and we heard people there before they ever had a hit record and became really big across the country and the world. We heard them all back when we were young. And then by the way, I'm gonna throw this in. In 1967, I met a girl, and I'll tell you her first name only. Her name was Sharon, and she lived in Brentwood, Tennessee. And we met each other at the hangout. And the next year, we met again. And it wasn't a big thing back then, but she was a backup singer on one or two of the Elvis Presley records. And I thought that was cool, but Elvis is just Elvis, That's the way we looked at things. Now let's go into crime in Panama City. Crime in Panama City was next to none, and if you compare it with today's population, it's still proportionate. They had trampolines on the beach that were dug into the ground. They were sand surface. They had volleyball nets, and they had a pier right there at the hangout. Every night had 2 or 3 live bands. But the only thing that I didn't like about the whole thing was every night there were fights at the hangout. And there were fights because guys got drunk and fought. And they, most of the time, about 85% of the time, fought over girls. Who would have thought that? In any case, let me move on. The crime there was, people being arrested for being drunk then and today is proportionate wise the same. But one thing I remember, the only time I remember other than people drowning, usually there was maybe 1 or 2 a year that would drown anywhere between Panama City Beach and all the way down through Destin, which was hot, all of it. And actually on into to Gulfport. I mean, not Gulfport, but down in Alabama. I can't think of it now, and I live in Alabama. But anyway, there's always a drowning here or there. But I drove Birmingham to Montgomery and then got on 331 south and drove it until I hit 98. Turn left on 98, drive about 20 miles, you're in Panama City. Now, one year, we were returning home as spring breakers were coming down from the north. And they were cleaning up a wreck site at that intersection of Highway 331 South and 98. Someone, and it was a parent of a group of people, ran that stop sign. There wasn't a light. And it killed a lot of people. Like 7 or 8 people were killed. That's the biggest tragedy that happened in all the years that we were going down there. Now, you have this year, other than the girls doing what they shouldn't do. You know, they really shouldn't, and I'll say that. And guys urging them on, you know, they shouldn't do that either. But that's because we no longer have prayer in schools. If we did, then that wouldn't be happening in that manner. Now, quickly, I want to say this. The first time that I remember, other than a single here and there shooting in Panama City, was this Saturday when a man shot 7 people. Now, let me say this. You have 5% blacks in Panama City to 95% whites. But you have one single black man that shoots 7 people. Now they want to shut it down. All over Fox News and all other news channels, shut it down. Well, don't shut it down yet, because if it was reversed and there were 95% blacks and 5% white, you would have thousands killed. I'll say thousands, dozens and dozens, if not hundreds. If you want to compare it that way, the black crime is far, far greater than whites everywhere in this country by their numbers. If they were white, they'd be doing about 95% of the crime. Okay. Now, let me jump from here. Let me jump over to Daytona Beach. I started going to Daytona Beach Bike Week in 1996, my first year. 1996, I went twice. I take that back, once. 1997, I went twice. Bike Week, Biketoberfest. 1998, I did not go. And then in January 99, my wife passed away. She was ill in 97 and then in 98. And I waited a year or two, then I started going back. As of now, I have been 22 times to Daytona Beach, either Bike Week or Biketoberfest or both. 22 times. Out of all of that time, all those trips, and the first time I went, there were 600,000 Harleys in Daytona Beach. March that year in 2000, they had 600,000 Harleys and over 1 million people. All these times, all these years, I went 22 trips. I have heard of 2 murders, and they were white. I have heard of the biggest number of people that were killed in a event that I heard. I may be wrong, but what I heard so far was 7. One of them happened right on the street where I was about to turn into my motel room, my wife and I. Someone ran across the street and right in front of a pickup truck, and the pickup truck killed her. She was a 15-year-old girl. But guys, don't shut down these places by what you hear. Naturally, things are going to be progressing only because the media has increased by 5,000 times since I used to go down. There was not an iPhone. There was not cameras that you could upload. There was not an internet. Those things didn't exist. If media existed then as it does now, there would have been as much going on at that time as there is now. Go down, enjoy it, and just be safe. You don't have to join in these rowdy crowds, but you can go down and have a great time. I just want to pass my 2 cents along. Jody Wolf, Expoz.